In the early 90s, the company I'd worked for had a holiday party in a private room at Four Paws. The waiter, of course, told us about the supposed hauntings, which made for a nice story. After dinner, our group was given a tour of the restaurant. We were coming down a staircase. I stepped aside to allow a waitress to go upstairs past us. I didn't want to bump her. She had her hands full. My work partner, Steve, asked from behind me, "What's the matter?" I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Why did you stop?" I looked at him like he was crazy and said, "I didn't want to bump into the waitress." "What waitress?" He said, "Our waiter was standing at the bottom of the stairs and heard our exchange." He asked me, standing rather close and not making a big deal out of it, what she looked like. And when I told him, he gave me a funny look. And then he said, "That was Molly." In Wisconsin, there was a house that we referred to as the Pink House in River Falls. The Pink House is actually written up in the book Haunted Wisconsin, but I had a personal experience there while attending UW, River Falls, in the early 1980s. The Pink House is located behind North Hall, and in the spring of 2007 was still painted pink. I was dating a boy who lived there with a few roommates, and we were preparing for a keg party. I was in the kitchen washing pitchers and glasses when I felt him walk up behind me, put his arms around my waist, and kiss the left side of my neck. I smiled and leaned back into him. When I turned my head, there was no one there. Later that evening, I was walking down the hall to the bathroom. The hallway ran straight from the living room, so anyone sitting there could watch down the hall. The bathroom was 2 steps up from the hallway, about halfway down the hall. Well, I tripped. I didn't step up high enough to put my foot on the first stair, and I fell forward. Then, I stopped. All of a sudden, I look up past the stairs, and at the top of the stairs is a woman in a white dress just staring at me. Only this wasn't just a creepy woman. This woman's face was melting, and she was just pointing at me for a millisecond before ultimately disappearing. I could not believe my eyes. It really seemed like this entity wanted me to fall and pushed it with her force. I don't know how spirits can do that, but that's what I felt. Anyway, thank you for reading. I have 2 stories that are going to intertwine with each other. My parents had their house built in 1963. From the time I was a little kid, I would wake up either in the middle of the night or early morning to hear people talking in our living room. I would get up and everyone would be sleeping. I told my mom about it. She would laugh and tell me it was probably dead Indians. According to Michigan history, the land had been owned by the Huron Indians. Being a little kid, I believed her. As I grew up, I didn't hear them anymore. I had my son in 1985, and we had lived in this old house that I knew the previous owner had passed away in. From the first day we had moved in there, I always had the feeling of being watched, and weird things would happen, like the VCR would come on by itself. Doors open and slam shut, and at one time, I saw an elderly woman come up the stairs and walk into the bedroom. My son was 2 years old and told me about a woman with a pink dress was floating over his bed. This happened twice. He started sleeping with me. In 1988, my mother had taken ill, and my father was an over-the-road truck driver. We were asked to move back home, so my mother wouldn't be so home alone. Not long after we moved in, my son started telling me about hearing people in the hallway. This went on all his life. He's 19 now. My mother passed away in 1991. My son was about 6 years old. About a month after she passed, my parents' bedroom was across the hall from the bedroom. One night, my son walked out of the bathroom, then came running in the living room as white as a ghost, telling me he had seen my mother sitting on the bed. She told him, "You be a good boy." Knowing my mother, that's exactly what she would say to him. I believed him. For a year after that, when it got dark, every light was on in the house. I purchased the house from my father in 2002. My husband's son and I have been living there. In 2003, my husband's ex-girlfriend passed away from cancer. She told him she was going to haunt him. After she died, weird stuff started happening. Noises and voices. Music when no radios or TVs were turned on. Stuff would fly out of the cabinets. After a couple of months of this, I demanded that whoever was there to leave. Well, they didn't. I know I have at least 3 ghosts here. My son woke me up a couple of weeks ago and asked me to come in the bathroom. He was hearing a man and a woman talking in the hall. I got up, we went in the bathroom, and we shut the door. At first, nothing. Then I heard a woman's voice. Couldn't make out what was said, but it was definitely a woman's voice. Then last night, I was sitting here on my computer. My husband and I split up 4 months ago. I was here alone. My son was at work, and it was 2 a.m. I was playing in Yahoo Games. My computer is in the living room next to the entrance to the hallway. Now the way I sit, I'm facing the wall. I'm here playing a game. Then, I saw someone walking down the hall. For a second I thought it was my son. It was male, and about his size. I saw for about 20 seconds, enough to see I was wearing a baggy t-shirt, tucked into pants. And I didn't see a head, just a torso. Then it faded. I was freaking out. The hair on my arms was standing a mile high, and I was shaking. I turned on every light in the home, called my son at work, told him to come straight home from work. Then last night, I tried to go to bed while my son was at work. He gets home at about 4:30 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I got up, turned on all the lights, and played on the computer till he came home. Well, that's all for now. If anything else happens, I'll let you know. Thank you for reading this. Okay, this is very weird. I just last night experienced for the first time what I think is sleep paralysis. I just want to know your opinion. I was using a pulse oximeter last night so my doctor could look at my sleeping patterns. I was having a hard time sleeping, so I laid on the sofa for a bit to see if I could drift off while watching TV. I didn't have any luck there because I kept hearing this banging noise coming off in the distance, so I went to bed. After about 45 minutes of listening to my husband snore and snort, I decided to go to sleep in my daughter's room. She is away, visiting her grandparents. Anyway, not long after laying down in her bed, I had the feeling I wasn't alone in the room. The door closed when the AC kicked on. At least I hope that's why. And it kinda jolted me awake. I was making up my mind to go back to my bed in my room when the weirdest sensation came over me. I couldn't move. I could barely breathe. And that feeling of someone else in that room was overpowering. And I would swear I heard rustling behind my head, coming from the closet. In a minute or so, it stopped, and I went to get out of my bed, and it started again. I tried to get it to stop, but I couldn't make my limbs move. I was terrified. This happened about 6 times in a row. The last time I jumped up and ran to the door, my cat was just outside the door all hunched and hissing. I jumped into my bed and pulled the covers over my head. Ever since we moved into this house, I felt something here and even thought I'd caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. My kids have never said anything to me, but they all sleep together in the same bed and often leave the TV in my daughter's room on with the sound off. Now I'm really worried, and I don't know if I want my kids sleeping in there. She's going to be gone through the weekend, and I was thinking about trying to get up the nerve to try to sleep in there again. By the way, I will be calling my doctor to get the results of the pulse oximeter test next week. I'm hoping that I can get a copy and see if there are any strange readings back to back. Thanks for reading my story. It makes me feel better to tell someone. My youngest sister was taking care of an elderly gentleman some time back, and with her pay, they gave her an apartment. The apartment was situated upstairs, and the doctor had an apartment downstairs. Now, the house was really old. I'm not sure just how old, but before the doctor bought it, it was a funeral parlor. Then, many years ago, he made a doctor's office with 5 examination rooms and a records room in front of the home. Now, the house was set up like this. It had both a front door leading to the doctor's office area and a back door which led to his apartment and stairs leading up to the other 2 apartments. The one upstairs apartment was vacant, the one in the back, and my sister had the front upstairs apartment. Now her apartment had the front entrance also. If you walked through the front door, to the left was the old doctor's offices and a big foyer with a winding staircase which led to my sister's apartment. If you took the front way, the stairs at the end of the hallway was about 15 feet long, and on your left was the bedroom, the attic entrance, and then straight ahead was the door to her living room. Well, one night I had a dream about that area of her apartment, and the panic and fear I experienced was overwhelming to me, and I couldn't get it off my mind. When I had a visitor, I sensed something, but didn't pay any attention to it until I had this dream. After that, I mostly used the back door. Whenever I would be in that hallway near the front stairs, I would always get this very heavy feeling, and a feeling of urgency to get myself into the living room area, and fast. Just as you entered the living room to the left was her 2 daughters' room. The doctor was very old and senile, so he needed pretty much to be helped with everything. So my sister had baby monitors, both for him to call her and for her to hear the children at night when she had to go help him with whatever he may need. Well, one night, this was long after my dream, she was upstairs with the doctor, and it was late. My daughter was spending the night. When she had left, the children were sound asleep for hours. She had heard toys going off, and sounds like the children may be up on the monitor. And when she went upstairs to check, they were all sound asleep. My daughter had also sensed some strange things when they were there also. My sister has long since moved, and the doctor has passed away. His daughter lives in the house now. I often want to stop and talk to her, to see if she has noticed anything strange herself. As a child, we were told a lot of creepy things that happened. We lived out in the country. There were a few houses around at the time, and we lived on a 3.5-acre farm. Us kids would go out in the front and play ghost in the graveyard, or sometimes we'd play truth or dare. This one night, we're all holding hands and sitting in a circle, and we kept hearing a noise, saying ooh, and we thought it was just an owl. We asked my brother truth or dare, and before we could say truth, a big black wing, we thought it was a bat, swooped over us. We got up and screamed and looked up into the sky, and there was nothing around. So we thought it was just our imagination. When we went out to look into the field, there stood a figure, completely blackened out, and 3 foot in height. That's what we assumed anyway. We stared at it for as long as we could, before it eventually vanished. It had to be about 10 seconds, but it was there. We had no idea what that was, but it seemed like a shadow person, only a very, very short version. Another time, I went to church and wanted to get my glory on after my sister dying of cancer. Well, let me take you back to her death. She was in the hospital before this happened, and she was taking chemotherapy and radiation, and she kept asking me if she was going to make it, because she didn't want to die. I told her that we all have to come to that day to just pray. She kept smoking, and I told her to stop smoking. That night, she had her last cigarette. I was called at the hospital at 12 midnight. My sister was dying. I started praying in the emergency room, and she wasn't responding, but I could feel her spirit was there, and I was talking to her. I said, "Caroline, hang on." I said, "If it's the will of God, go with him." I came back home because I needed the sleep. She left me in charge of pulling on the cord, or letting them do whatever they needed to help her. I came home and fell asleep. Something was tapping at my window. I woke up, and my sister's face was staring at me in the window. She kept telling me to come to the hospital, and I said no, that I couldn't. I got up and went to the bathroom. I kept smelling cigarette smoke as I sat there on the toilet. There stood my sister in the hallway smoking, and she kept looking at me. I said, "No, this can't be." I went to lie down. I went to pull the cover up, and something pulled the cover down. Something was telling me to come to the hospital. I started crying as I made my way. I said, "Lord, I can't do this on my own. I need you to help me make the right choice. Help her find her destiny." I went into the room and kissed her. I said, "Caroline, it's time you help me make the decision. Either you stay with us or come with the Lord." 5 minutes later, the heart monitor went dead. I started crying because I knew she was gone. We buried her, made funeral arrangements. A few weeks later, I went to church. I was coming down the road. I was happy and singing. It was about 11 at night. It was so funny because the light on the road never takes forever to turn green. I stopped. I felt a cold black feeling come over me. I got chills on my arm. I looked to the passenger side, and there sat my sister Caroline. But it wasn't her. It was an evil spirit form of her. I said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." The light still wouldn't turn green. I looked over, and the person that I thought was there was no longer there. Disappeared. Whatever form or version of her, that was gone. And that's my story. This is going to be a pretty short story, but it is terrifying, and I think worth sharing with you all on this site. One night, after my grandmother's funeral, I was laying in bed, trying to fall asleep, when my door opened. There was a freezing cold air at my feet. A couple of nights later, there was a white figure that was standing by my door, just like my grandmother used to do. And then all of a sudden, we heard an unexplainable noise coming from my intercom. The noise was a person breathing, and it was very heavy. My grandfather went down to see what it was, but nothing was there. We heard it again. This time, my sister went down with a pocket knife, but nothing was there. One day, me and my 2 friends were in my room, which was my grandmother's room, before it was mine. The door was opening and closing. Those are my encounters with my grandmother. Hey Phantom, so first of all, yeah, I know this is a shorter recording, but it's new stories for you guys to enjoy, and I hope you enjoyed them, so please click a big fat like on the button. I mean, I don't know what that means, but please click a big fat like. Okay, I'm starting to lose my edge here. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, but please click a like, share the video, because as a small YouTuber, we depend on your shares, and please let me know your favorite story. I really liked the last story. It was short and sweet, and it was creepy to fill the October skies with light. Okay, I need to quiet, but guys, I'm so happy I got a video out for you guys. Love you, and I'll see you in the next video. And please comment, please like, make me feel popular. And oh, I have new merch that's on sale. Well, it's not new, but it's, all my merchandise that's on sale for 21% off. So check the Phantom store. There'll be a link in the description, or maybe there will be right below the video. There's the little side scrolling thing that says it, has clothes there, and you can buy it 21% off. But yeah, guys, I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. And share the video, please. Love you.